Before I answer the question, first let me identify the capital structure, additional debt, and additional equity. Capital structure refers to the specific mix of debt and equity used to finance a company's assets and operations. From a corporate perspective, equity represents a more expensive, permanent source of capital with greater financial flexibility. Debt, on the other hand, represents a cheaper, finite to maturity capital source that legally obligates the company to fix. A company capital structure is the result of such financing decisions that may be guided by capital structure policies or targets set by management and the board. Capital structure is also known the result of such factors as company size and maturity, which influence the financing options a company may have available. Besides equity and debt issuance, capital structure can also be significantly affected by merger and acquisition activity, which can be financed by cash, borrowing, share assumption, or debt assumption, in addition to proceeds from divestitures and asset sales. Capital structure is also affected over time by the company's operations, which might consume or generate cash, and by management decisions regarding dividends and share buybacks. Since we are considering how a company minimizes its overall cost of capital, the focus here is on the market values of debt and equity. Therefore, capital structure is also affected by changes in the market value of a company's securities over time, particularly the share price. Additional debt. Debt is something, usually money, borrowed by one party from another. Debt is used by many corporations and individuals to make large purchases that they could not afford under normal circumstances. A debt arrangement gives the borrowing party permission to borrow money under the condition that it is be paid back at a later date, usually with interest. Additional equity. Additional equity means any contribution to the equity capital of any person, whether or not occurring in connection with the issuance of sale of equity interest by such person. What is the Zapotes Incorporated's additional debt? The additional debt may affect either negative or positive. Debts are not bad for a company but may also help it to fasten up the growth of the company. Furthermore, debts can also be more affordable and effective method of financing a business when it needs cash to release. The problem will only show when the management doesn't know how to control its debt level efficiently. That's the same to Zapotes Incorporated. If the company's production facility are too much, or if the companies will get more floors and company already don't have enough money to pay its current obligation, they might fall into debt or losses. But if the company has enough assets or resources to pay its debt, they might not worry at all. The additional equity is a good thing. Why? Because its effect in event might reflect to company's capacity, the possibility to increase the value of the principal amount invested. This comes in the form of capital gains and dividends, like what I said, and offers help and make them grow to create more income resources. This is the solution for the debt to equity ratio. Total liabilities divided by total shareholders' equity. From 2018, 4 200,000,000 divided by 4,400,000 is equal to 0.95 or 95%. From 2019, 410,000,000 divided by 6,980,000 is equal to 0.63 or 63%. That's all.
To adequately determine whether a company is financially sound or poised for growth, investors must first understand what differentiates a company's profit from its profitability. Profitability is closely related to profit, but with one key difference. While profit is an absolute amount, profitability is a relative one. It is a metric used to determine the scope of a company's profit in relation to the size of the business. Profitability is a measurement of efficiency and ultimately its success or failure. A further definition of profitability is a business ability to produce a return on an investment based on its resources in comparison with an alternative investment. Although a company can realize a profit, this does not necessarily mean that the company is profitable. Debt financing can also help a company's profitability. Debt allows businesses to leverage their existing funds, allowing them to expand more quickly than they might otherwise. When debt financing is used effectively, it results in a rise in income that surpasses the cost of interest payments. Debt affects a firm's levered beta in the sense that increasing the total amount of debt increases the value of the company. Increasing debt causes leverage ratios such debt to equity and debt to total capital to grow. Covenants are commonly attached to loan funding, requiring a company to achieve particular interest coverage and debt level restrictions. Debt holders have priority over stockholders in the case of a company's dissolution. Debt is often less expensive than equity, and interest payments are tax deductible. As a result, as debt levels rise, returns to equity owners rise as well, boosting the company's value. Too much debt, on the other hand, lowers earning by causing a high interest charge. This makes it more difficult to obtain new loans and may cause credit reporting companies to reduce their credit score, raising the cost of additional debt.
Before I answer the guide question number 3, let me define first what are the long-term and short-term goals. Long-term and short-term goals. Goals that can happen quickly are called short-term goals. Goals that take a long time to achieve are called long-term goals. Let's find out more about them. A short-term goal is something you want to do in the near future. The near future can mean today, this week, this month, or even this year. A short-term goal is something you want to accomplish soon. It is a goal you can achieve in 12 months or less. Examples of this are take a class, buy a new television, and write a resume. Next is the long-term goal. Long-term goal is something you want to do further in the future. Long-term goals require time and planning. They are not something you can do this week or even this year. It usually takes 12 months or more to achieve. Here are some examples of goals that can take several years to achieve. Graduate from college, save for retirement, and have own business. Now, let's proceed to the answer on guide question number 3. The risk that can positively or negatively influence the firm is one of the aspects that the company should consider when selecting whether to seek long-term or short-term financing. Another factor to consider is the cost of the amount required, because a company should only borrow the amount required to make it simpler to repay its debts. In addition, a company's financial resources and capacity to borrow money should be considered. If a company doesn't have the financial means to pay off its obligations right away, it's a good idea to go for long-term financing. Long-term debts, on the other hand, will have a defined maturity date that will require a corporation to guarantee that its obligations are paid on or before the deadline. That's all for the guide question number 3.
So first, before I answer the question, let us know what is financing. Financing is the process of providing funds for business activities, making purchases, or investing. Financial institutions such as banks are in the business of providing capital to the businesses, consumers, and investors to help them achieve their goals. The use of financing is vital in any economic system, as it allows companies to purchase products out of their immediate reach. Put differently, financing is a way to leverage the time value of money to put future expected money flows to use for projects started today. Financing also takes advantage of the fact that some individuals in an economy will have a surplus of money that they wish to put to work to generate returns, while other demands money to undertake investment, also with the hope of generating returns, creating a market for money.
So analyzing the situation, from a sole proprietorship, it became a partnership with Alex, the investor of the company. The formula is the total liabilities divided by the total shareholders' equity. For the year 2018, the liability cost $4,200,000 divided by the shareholders' equity, which cost $4,400,000, and the total of it is 0.95. While the year 2019, the total liability is $4,440,000 divided by the shareholders' equity cost $6,980,000 is equals to 0.63.
So, our group decided that the company of Mr. Anthony Cruz, which is the Zapatos Inc., will continue his plan to build now a production with his partner investor, Mr. Alex. We chose to accept the money and his 45% ownership. Because in the situation of Mr. Anthony, TVZ, he experienced an unusual income for the past years. So, he need a person who can help him to manage, or person who has a skills plus allocate the money of the company properly. Even though he need to divide or share the profit of the company with his friend Alex, he already have an advantages, like he has a partner, he has an investor, he has a cash flow that can surely help the company to continue for growing and away from bankruptcy. Unlike the two options, after he paid the loans in the bank, the transaction is also ended. And while he was paying the loans for a long period of time, the amount of the loan is also become higher, like what we solved earlier.